What is going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be doing an install video on my Mark IV Jetta 2.0. It is going to be a WOT box. Everyone has these things. We want to shoot fire out the exhaust. We have catless, straight piped turbo car. We're ready to start two-stepping on fools. We're ready to do some no-lift shifts and just have some more fun with the car. And we don't know, it might blow up in the process, but we're going to experience the WOT Box by N2MB Racing. And yeah, let's go ahead and get this thing installed. So the first thing that I want to do before I start running wires is actually identify what wires need to be spliced and tapped into. So we'll go ahead, pop the hood, identify the wires. I know fuel injector number 4, the drive signal from that is where we're going to get the RPM signal. And then also on the ignition coil plug, we're going to have to tap into one of the wires there. So we're going to pull that plug off, expose the wires, and find out a coordinating or color coordinating one, the one that it says in the instructions. It's like the power to the ignition coils wire, and then we can start kind of preparing that stuff before we actually start running wires. It'll make the process a little bit easier, I think, a little bit more organized. So we are going to do it the ghetto way. We're not going to be splicing at the ECU. We'll just be doing it where we can find the wire and where we can find a convenient place to chop the wire and solder a new one in, or whatever we needed to do. So yeah, we'll do it that way. And then also under the dash, we do have to do some wire splicing under there as well. So it shouldn't be too hard of a process. It's just finding the right wires. That's the bulk of the work, and make sure you find the right wires and you cut them in a nice manner, so you're not just totally bricking your car and making it unusable. So we'll go ahead and get started with this. What we're going to need: a soldering iron for sure, razor blade, heat shrink. It comes with a little wiring harness here. We've got the WOT box itself. We have heat shrink and zip ties, and a little plug thing that we can crimp onto the wire if we need it, and the plug-in for laptop in case we want to look like one of those crazy Honda guys with the laptop in the passenger seat. It's about to gap some V8s. We can look like that if we want to with that cord, I guess. And yeah, not gapping anyone with this 2-point slow, but it'll sound fast with the pops and the bangs. So we are sourcing wires in the engine bay. It is a rat's nest in here. Such an ugly engine bay. I need like a tucked harness or something. So we have the plug for the ignition coil right here. I peeled back this little 90-degree converter for the plug. And so what the instructions say on the N2MB site is there should be 4 power cables going to the ignition coils. Since this is a 2.0 8-valve engine, it just has a coil pack like this guy right here. So I think there is just one power wire, one main power source going into it. If that does not work, I will go ahead and retrace my steps, but I think it is going to be this larger gauge purple and black wire here for this AZG engine. So I am going to chop that guy, splice into it. We will run the in and the out for the WOT box through this one wire here, and hopefully that will intercept all power going to this coil pack. I'm not 100% sure, but all of the other wires are such different colors than what are described in the N2MB instructions that I think that is how it's going to work with this 8-valve engine, since it is not running individual coil packs like a normal 4-cylinder engine would be. Then they would have 4 individual power wires going to each coil pack that sits on top of the engine, like a 1.8T or TSI engine or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and chop this wire here. The rest of the wires, we have a blue and yellow, pink and like red, a purple, an orange, and a baby blue one. So I don't think any of those things are power for the ignition coil besides the larger purple and black one. So I'm going to chop that one, and then we'll solder in the orange and the red wire for the WOT box itself. So now that we somewhat have an idea of what wires we are running in the engine bay, we can go ahead and run the wires through. I went ahead and undid the underside of the dash down here. It was 3 of the little, I think they're like a T5, small little Torx bit. I'm not too sure on the size. Went ahead and undid that and locate a red and white wire that goes to the clutch switch. That's what you will be tapping in. I think it was with the green wire on the WOT box, and then a baby blue, well, it's a white wire with a baby blue stripe on it on the throttle position. So it will be on the throttle pedal plug-in, and it is the middle wire. So there are 6 wires total. It's going to be 1, 2, and 3. I think from the right side of the plug-in, and then there will be another 3 on the other side. So it is kind of like the middle wire, even though there's 6. So it would be over on the right-ish side, white with a baby blue stripe down it. And then that will be the wiring for the interior, and then it does have a short ground wire on this little harness here, and you can ground it anywhere underneath the dash here. There's all kinds of stuff, all kinds of bolt areas, and we will actually be using that little ring that we can clamp onto the wire. So we'll just clamp that on and then bolt it to one of those locations underneath the dash here. So now I'm going to be running these 3 wires. So yellow, orange, and red will be going out to the engine bay, and we will be using this piece of aluminum welding wire and some electrical tape to feed it through a grommet underneath the dash here, and then we can get to soldering. Alright, and now we are ready to go through the firewall. Hopefully it doesn't get grabbed and peel all these wires off, but taped it pretty good, so hopefully it goes through. Alright guys, so we had to do it individually. It just kept pulling them off, so got them all 3 ran, and we are going to go ahead and get some of the black like wire cover, this stuff here. I have some actually, so we can make this look a lot cleaner than it is, and we'll go ahead, wrap these wires in that, and then we can go ahead and use the power from the ignition, the ground from the spark plug here, and we should be good in the engine bay, and then we can move on to inside the car. We got all of the wires hooked up. It took a little bit of figuring out. I thought that I wired it wrong, even though I wired it right. I had to go in the software and actually reverse the clutch switch reading, so it was just reading backwards. So I'd go wide open throttle, the light would be blinking, and then stop blinking like the clutch was pushed in. And then when I would push in the clutch, it wouldn't do anything. So I was like freaking out, changing all the wires and trying to figure out all that clutch position stuff, ruining wires underneath the dash. But I finally had a realization that I could just go into the software and reverse how the clutch switch read. So you can invert it. So I don't have cruise control on this car, So a lot of people are saying you require cruise control to get any of that stuff to work and your clutch switch to work. But I just found a way around it with pressing invert on that clutch option in the software. So went ahead and flashed the whole thing. Everything seems to work fine. So we have the red wire going to the WOT box from the from the fuse, and then orange wire goes back into where the coils go. Like I said, I am not sure if that is the only power wire that I need to tap into. Supposedly there are 4, but since this one has a coil pack and not individual coils, I think that should be fine. We'll test it tomorrow. It got way late, as you guys can see, 11:45. So yeah, we're not going to test it tonight. And then also with the yellow wire, we tapped into the negative of our fuel injector number 4 here, and that is it for engine bay. And then we have the heat shrink here. We are ready to pull that over. Once we verify that everything is right, we'll pull it over, heat it up, and get it all melted on there. And then we'll pull the wires all back into the cabin, and then we'll zip tie it up in a nice loom. And then inside the car, we have a mess as well. Still left the dash down and everything. So clutch switch, the red and white wire was correct. The white with the blue stripe wire was correct for the throttle position, which is like one of the middle wires. And yeah, so we're pretty good. And then I have the WOT box here plugged in. I'm not sure where I'm going to mount it. I think maybe under the steering column. You can't really see in here, but under the steering column, somewhere in there, I can mount it, just with like some self tappers inside here. Yeah, and then I want to have access so I can plug in this wire. It was actually really easy, and the software was pretty nice to work with. It flashes really fast, and you can change all kinds of stuff in there. So there's different RPMs for the launching, different cut times for the wide open throttle shifting, the invert options for the throttle and the clutch, a window switch for nitrous oxide, and there's just all kinds of stuff you can do in that software. So pretty impressed with that so far. It seems like a really nice thing. Hopefully everything functions as it should tomorrow when we test it, and yeah, we'll just pick this up tomorrow. So thank you guys for watching this video. We will see you on the next video where we actually test the WOT box and take it for a rip and start shooting some flames out of the exhaust, hopefully. So yeah, peace out.